What's the hype all about? Might as well check it out. But then generation wealth, we talking large amount. Financial experts on the table, we just trying to connect. Working smarter, not harder, getting money that makes sense. What's up, you guys? It's your girl Gina, aka your favorite hype girl. Welcome back to another episode on What's the Hype podcast. You guys know my biggest goal of my podcast is to inspire others to do what they love and love what they do, and to connect with healthcare professionals and students with financial growth to maximize their earning potential. And I always pray that God will connect with me with financial growth in all aspects of the game. Today's society is heavily influenced by big houses, luxurious vacations to make you believe that's how you should live life, and to each its own. But not everyone looks at the big picture 20, 30 to 40 years down the line. To live comfortably nowadays in retirement, you would need at least $1 million. And how many of us already have that stored away? And if not, what would it take to be prepared to live our best lives when we get to an age where we can't work 2-3 jobs, work overtime, juggle life like we did in our younger years? If you took the initiative of my good friend Sonia Lewis and took care of your debt, this segment is for you. But if not, it's never too late to prepare yourself. My next guest has really opened my eyes to what it really means to live my best life. He stepped out on faith at the age of 24 after he turned down a job for Microsoft after college and started his own company called RentLink, a website integration that made it easier to add property listing and search functionalities to different websites. In 2 years, he was able to pay off all his debts and invest his money in a Roth IRA and fund index. In 2010, he stayed as the lowest paid employee to fuel his growth in his company, bringing home $36,000 a year. In 2013, his company revenue hit $1 million and still lived below his means at $36,000 a year, and started to invest $5,000 a year in Roth IRA. In 2014, he sold his company for $5 million, which his employees were able to hold shares. In 2016, his net worth was at $2.9 million and was still managed to live below his means, flipped houses, building his personal brand, Personal Finance Club, with a passion for photography and travel. Let me introduce to y'all Jeremy Schneider.
Hi,
Hey,
Gina.
hey. So I'm very to have you, Jeremy, on my platform because you have really showed out and showed up and showed out for over the years. And you, my friend, are definitely not just trying to keep up with the Johnsons. And I feel like you would be a great person to help healthcare professionals to look at the big picture and get them where they need to be, which is to retire early so they can live their best lives and also help students prepare to invest in their future. Now, in today's episode, we're going to dive into where his inspiration comes from, how he manages personal finances, what skills and tips he can share with you guys to maximize your earning potential, and so much more. So I want to dive into my first question. What inspired you? What inspired your entrepreneur journey?
I never saw myself as a company starting kind of guy. I didn't like have that born into me. I don't think I planned to get a job coming out of college, but I worked for Microsoft for 2 summers. I didn't want to go work for a giant company again. I was dating someone that was still in school, and so I wanted to not leave my college town. And so I kind of just almost by default decided I should start a company because I wanted to work for a small company. I couldn't find a job at a small company. And I really had no idea what I was doing at first. I Googled like how to start a company and just figured it out along the way. And so I only mention this to say that, I think if you're someone out there who doesn't think you're the type of person to start companies, either did I. And it just kind of took taking the first step and figuring out over a long period of time, and to what eventually paid off. And so it really was a matter of just kind of not wanting to work for a giant company and deciding to do it on my own.
Gotcha. And I feel you too. After working in my career for quite some time, I feel like, this, even though I love my career, I also want to see myself branching off into doing something else because I don't see myself working until I'm 65 or having to follow, the same 9 to 5 routine every day. But tell us about your first company and how'd you manage to scale your business and to be able to live off of 36 a year?
So yeah, my first company was an internet company, and I had a degree in computer science, and I turned down a job offer from Microsoft as a software developer And so I did have a little bit of skills to know how to build that type of technology, but most of it was just figuring it out as I went. And it was a rental housing advertising website. So landlords could post their apartments for rent to my company's website, and we would automatically syndicate to like dozens of different websites like apartments.com and Zillow and rentals.com and Apartment Guide and all these different sites. Keeping all your ads updated was kind of challenging, so we made a site that would do that for you automatically. It took a long time to figure that out. It took years, and to build that, we needed to hire, you needed engineers, like the kind of job that I did. And so at first I just did all the work myself before, trying to hire someone. And then in order to grow the company, as we started making more money, instead of paying myself more and more, I decided to kind of cap my salary at $36,000 a year, $3,000 a month. I thought that was enough to live on. And then anything above and beyond that, I basically used to hire more people to help grow the company.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, I would be interested in that too, because my brother, he's also into real estate and he also lists properties. He's the beginner at it, so I'll definitely, you know, put him on to that. So that sounds like a great idea to do and easier too, because having to post on multiple sites it is time consuming. Tell us what is the biggest lesson you learned from your business?
You know, that's a big question. It's hard to say because there's so many years, but I think the biggest thing that was really the biggest credit to me or the business was persistence. You know, at any given moment, I didn't necessarily know what to do next. I didn't have all the skills or all the knowledge at the beginning. But the one thing that I can kind of credit for myself, my younger self, was that I just didn't give up. And even, it can look like stubbornness or bullheadedness or being inspired or whatever. But there's definitely, times where things seem to be going great and it felt really good. There's times things seem to be going bad. And either way, you just kind of have to stay really persistent and then make little improvements along the way. And if you do those two things, you're persistent and you improve a little bit along the way, then you eventually will find success.
That's good. So, what are some great investment opportunities you and your team can provide to healthcare professionals that can benefit to maximize their earning potential?
So at its core, I think investing is actually a pretty simple task, and it can be scary the first time you dip your toe into the world of investing. Things like crypto and Bitcoin and day trading and options and futures and all this stuff. And we hear all these words out there and it's very confusing. And it seems like investing, like even the way that you phrase like opportunities, it seems like something you're supposed to be actively figuring out. But investing is actually really simple. Like you basically have to do two things. You have to spend less money than you make. Then with the difference, you basically have to just put it away early and often. But instead of saving like in a savings account, just where it's cash, you put into an investment account like a Roth IRA or 401k or 403b that nurses often have, or like a regular old brokerage account. Then inside of those investments accounts, you buy what's called an index fund, which is basically like buying all of the stocks. And it sounds crazy the first time you hear it, but when you buy all of the stocks, then you get, you're guaranteeing your fair share of the market of the full market growth. And so this concept of living below your means, buying all the stocks at once and just holding them for long periods of time is really how rich people get rich. And all the noise we hear about investing, about, oh, invest in your uncle's restaurant or buy this hot stock tip or get into this crypto, that should all just be ignored. It's just about buying index funds early and often and holding over time. That is optimal investing.
Okay. What advice would you give to a healthcare student that are trying to focus in school but want to maximize their earning potential?
So if you are a student, probably the number one thing you can do is just mitigate the amount of debt that you're in. When you take out loans, those loans need to be repaid, and repaying those loans costs a lot of money because there's interest and all the debt that needs to be paid, and it costs a lot of time. And so one little analysis I did compared two people who graduated, in their 20s, one with $20,000 of student loans and one with $40,000 of student loans. And both of those seem like, they're obviously huge numbers, but they're both typical. They're both kind of normal. You can imagine two people like this that were meeting at a coffee shop and comparing their student loan numbers, and they both are like, yep, that's a lot of money. But if they both pay them off at the exact same dollar amount, let's say they both pay $500 a month, then once they're paid off, they invest that $500 a month. The person with the $20,000 of student loans ends up with $300,000 more money in investments at traditional retirement age, because that little amount of extra debt has this magnification impact over long periods of time, because it takes longer to get out of debt, which sets you back further. And then you pay more as you're getting out of debt. And then as you're investing it, you're kind of further behind. And so if you are in school, think about things like, can you work part-time to mitigate your debt? Don't use those loans like blank checks to like be buying flat screen TVs. Can you go to cheaper schools, or can you get graduate early and save a semester, or can you get scholarships? There's all sorts of different ways, and just generally being frugal. Just working, for example, if you just work 2 nights a week, you might make, as a waitress or a bartender or something, you could make $100 a night. Maybe that's $200 a week. That's $800 a month. That's about $6,000 a year. That alone could easily make up that $20,000 difference I just described. And so there's all these little decisions that you can make just about getting through a good school with a good degree with as little debt as possible. And then once you have a good income after school, then you can start paying off the debt and investing.
Okay, that's good. And I wish I did my research back then. For me, it was just trying to just jump in my career and having the mindset like, oh, I'll make enough to pay it off. But now I'm paying for it now. So if I had someone like you back in 2016, 2015, trying to look for the school to get into the radiology, I would have took that advice to looking into cheaper schools that offer the same thing, So that's good to hear. And my last question is, what advice would you give to healthcare professionals that want to maximize their earning potential?
I'm a big advocate of investing, and I really think it's about those two things: spending less money than you make and investing early and often. And for sure, making more money is great. And so if you can, shop around, work overtime, increase your income, that's great. But no matter how much you make, you need to not spend it all. If you somehow make $500,000 a year, but you're spending $500,000 a year, at the end of the year, you have zero. But if you're making $80,000 a year, which many healthcare professionals do, and you're spending like you make $60,000 a year, that $20,000 a year delta there, if you invest that over the years, that can easily make you many millions of dollars invested. And so just think about increasing your income, but don't increase your expenses as fast. Keep that delta between what you make and what you spend, and then invest that regularly over time in index funds, as we talked about. That's going to build wealth, get you to a point where you can retire a millionaire, retire early, relieve that financial anxiety of always kind of living paycheck to paycheck. And it's not easy for sure. Like it's convenient and simple for us to just all spend as much as we make or more than we make, because it's so easy to swipe our credit cards. But being a little bit careful and purposeful about how you spend money and making sure you're saving and investing first before you spend what's left can really put you ahead.
That's good. Yeah, I always thought I never thought about that, because as I was growing in my career, I felt like the more I make, the more bills I got. But I never looked at the bigger picture of, the things I was spending my money on, and when I look back, all the things I spent, I don't even know what I spent my money on. So now, getting older and realizing, hey, just because I make more doesn't mean my expenses have to go up. Even though I did had more responsibilities added on to me, but aside from that, I knew I would have those responsibilities later on, like paying bills and, having my own car note and insurance and stuff like that. But I found myself spending more stuff like that didn't matter or didn't have much values, like shoes I don't even have anymore, purses that I don't even have anymore, clothes that I don't even fit anymore. I wore one time and never wore them again. So now that I look back, I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, let me refinance my whole budget here and, look at the bigger picture and start saving more. So from the bottom of my heart, Jeremy, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on my podcast, sharing some gems with the healthcare industry. Make sure you guys stay tuned on another episode on What's the Hype podcast. Make sure you guys follow Jeremy on social media at Personal Finance Club. Jeremy, did you want to add anything extra that you wanted to share with my audience?
Just remember the rules: live below your means, invest early and often. And yeah, if you want to find me, it's at Personal Finance Club.
Okay. And make sure you guys continue to show me love. And I love my day one supporters. This episode is sponsored by Hype Lifestyle app that connects financial girls like Jeremy to maximize your earning potential. And don't forget to sign up for Hype Lifestyle Apparel waitlist as well. Thanks, and see you guys on the next episode.